Hello.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello and welcome for joining us today. We are very, very excited. For those of you that are just logging on, we have the Gladstone Institutes that is here, and they are here to talk with you about an exciting opportunity this summer to do research through the PUMAS program. And so without any further ado, I'm going to have our speakers present to you about their program and give you a sense of what the program is looking for and some things that you can look forward to in applying to the program. And we will go ahead and get started. So Sudha, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Tiffany. Hi, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen before we start talking. And hopefully it will, well, it said host disabled participants screen sharing.
Are you able to share? Okay, beautiful.
Are you seeing my desktop as of now?
Yeah, we see your desktop.
There we go. Are we all set?
Looks great.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome again. I'm Sudha Krishnamurthy. As Tiffany just mentioned, we are from the Gladstone Institutes, and we talk a little bit about Gladstone and the summer internship program, PUMAS, that my colleague and I are here to present. A little bit about me. I am the Director of Postdoctoral and Graduate Student Affairs at Gladstone Institutes, which literally means I am the early career scientist specialist at Gladstone. So I work with high school students for outreach activities like these, undergraduate students, and then our graduate students, which are PhD students, postdocs, and junior faculty. So today, and I'll pause to let my colleague Emma Doctors introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma. I work with Sudha, and I've been at Gladstone here for roughly 2 years, and we work together on many outreach initiatives, including PUMAS. And before I came here, I worked with a lot of outreach and science organizations that eventually led me here. So I'm really excited to get to speak with you all today.
Thank you, Emma. So as Emma mentioned, we are the outreach team, but we also work with all early career scientists. So if that's something that of interest to any of you, please let us know as well. So a little bit about what we'll cover today. So introductions, we got that out of the way, which is awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about Gladstone, which is the place where you're from, about PUMAS, our summer internship program. And you'll get to hear from some of our alums in the program so that you can get a perspective of what their experience was and what they took out of the program. And of course, we will still have time at the end for any Q&A you might have. And we'll also provide you our contact information if you want to reach out to us for any other questions. So the building that you see behind is Gladstone Institutes. That's there with the lighting on. We are in San Francisco. So we are in the Mission Bay place of San Francisco. We are a nonprofit biomedical research institute with an academic affiliation to the biggest university in SF, which is University of California, San Francisco. So we are about 500 people strong, and we have people working on different areas of biomedical research. So we have people who study cardiac regeneration. We study people who have neuroscience, neurological researchers, specifically neurodegenerative disorders. We have people who study virology, like for example, SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus, which is we are all familiar with. It's a huge area of study at Gladstone right now. So we have people who build tools to study biomedical research enterprises. So in a variety of these opportunities, we will see that people in the labs, actually in each of these places, work on these different streams. So in the part of this internship and people at Gladstone, we have people in a lab with a principal investigator who's the head of the lab. And then you'll have people who are like PhD students and people who are scientists in the lab. And interns through this program will be working with them directly on each of these areas. So here you can see some pictures of some of the cool gadgets you'll work with, the techniques you'll see, And there is a lot of networking and community. So we wanted to share that. That will be an extensive part of our program. So where we are in San Francisco in the Mission Bay, we are well connected by the Caltrain system, the BART system, and the local shuttles as well. So it is very accessible in that. So a little bit about the program. So PUMAS, as we call it, is actually stands for Promoting Underrepresented Minority Advancement in Sciences. This program is a 9-week paid internship program, usually in the summer. It roughly started around June and runs till August. We've run this program since 2014. As of now, we have about 68 interns who come through the program. And here in this picture, you will see our 2022 cohort that we just hosted last year. This program is funded by the National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute from the National Institutes of Health. As most of you will be familiar with NIH, especially with the pandemic, we have been constantly following recommendations that come out of all these institutions. So what do we do in this program? So as an intern who gets accepted into the PUMAS program, you will get an opportunity for about 9 weeks to work with mentors who are people working in the lab, the scientists in the lab, on a project in one of these areas of research. You'll get an opportunity to do actual bench work. You'll learn some techniques. You'll understand the big questions they ask. You'll get opportunities to network extensively with a lot of scientists. You'll also build your reputation, your identification as a scientist by presenting at a talk or a poster at the end of the series. So the idea behind PUMAS is that for people who have never had a research experience, even in a short period, you get a real taste of what it means to be a scientist. So with that, we talk a little bit about the eligibility for this program. PUMAS accepts applicants from United States citizens or permanent residents. Our target audience is community college students who are planning to transfer to a 4-year college. We specifically do with a focus on STEM. So essentially, science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, because most of our work touches actually more on the first 2 spaces rather than the last 2. So, which is why we encourage applicants who had at least 2 semesters of college level science courses, like, for example, a chemistry lab or a molecular biology lab, because then you're at least a little familiar with the techniques that will be used in the lab. Of course, this is not a requirement. It's more like an opportunity so that you feel a little more comfortable. However, when we start the program, we do a 1-week, what we call as a boot camp, which my colleague will talk in detail a little bit later, but where we would expose you to what it means to be in a lab. How do you read a research paper? How do you answer a scientific question? What are the group dynamics? What is pipetting? A lot of our interns might never have had research experience. And especially with the pandemic, even the lab components might not have all been in person. So as a reason, we definitely do a lot of learning on the job as well, the first few days. After that, throughout the period of your internship, your mentor, who are scientists in the lab, will work a one-on-one with you and teach you techniques and help you build your skills while we finish up with a final presentation at the end of 9 months. We do ask our applicants to have a minimum GPA of 2.5. And if you have been through the PUMAS program, we encourage you to reapply as well. The PUMAS program applicants, we place a heavy emphasis on applicants who are historically underrepresented in the biomedical research. And this is based on the National Institutes of Health definition. So basically students of some ethnicities like African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, students who are socially economically disadvantaged, first-generation college students, or students with disabilities. So if any of you have questions about this, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to walk you through some of those parameters as well. Our program generally tends to accept in-state or local candidates really, but it's actually open to anybody in the country. The reason is that, as you probably read, it is a paid internship, but we don't have housing provided, which makes it really expensive for anyone who knows the area. And living in SF is expensive. So which is why most of our applicants tend to be from local institutions. With that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Emma.
Thanks so much, Sudha. So I wanted to transition into talking a little bit about what to expect in terms of the application process and the timeline. So our applications opened mid-January. So we're about 3 weeks through the process, which has been really exciting. We've already had many submissions come through. And the applications close early March, on March 3rd. And just to give a little bit of clarification, we ask in the application package to include letters of recommendation, but those are not due to us in the portal until March 10th. After our applications close, we go through a pretty rigorous application review period. And if you follow the link that says apply now, you can see the elements that we ask for in the application package at your own time on our website. You can read through there. But after the review process, we'll let applicants know by early April that they've been invited to interview. And typically we interview roughly the top 20 applicants. And an interview will be with Sudha and myself and 2 of our scientists. And we'll ask you questions about your interest in the program, what sparked your interest into getting into science, and how you feel you would contribute as a group to being in the cohort of PUMAS. In May, after our interviews convene, we'll then work through with our mentors, looking at those that have applied with interest to the program, their skill sets, what kind of research they do, and also taking into account through the interviews, your interests, your skill sets, and we'll begin to do a matching process. And eventually you'll get matched with a mentor or co-mentors in one of the labs that Sudha was mentioning earlier. And our program dates are June 12th to August 11th. And again, if you follow that link, there are a few more details that are shared about the process. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. To talk a little bit about some of the logistics of the program, what to expect when you've been invited into the program for these 9 weeks, as Sudha mentioned. The first week will be all about onboarding, meeting the 2 of us, getting settled, meeting your mentors, meeting the peers in your cohort, and really starting to feel like you're connected as a group. Not only that, but we definitely highlight many of the elements that Sudha mentioned in what we like to call a boot camp. So we talk about skills in the lab that you might use along your time in the program, but also safety and training skills to keep you and your mentor safe. There are a lot of reagents and different chemicals that you might use. You might be working with animals. And so all of this just sets you up for success to make sure that you're the safest you can be, while also having fun and learning about your project. The second week, after you've gone through that training, you're feeling a little bit more settled, maybe you've connected with a few other people in the program. This is the time when you'll have your first full week in the lab with your mentors. You're able to shadow them at this point, kind of get to know other folks in the lab, other postdocs who have just finished graduate school, or graduate students who are still in the process of being in a PhD program and are focusing on a particular type of research. So you'll get to connect with them. And this further just expands your support structure while you're at Gladstone. So you'll be able to connect with the 2 of us, your mentors, and also other scientists while you're there. And in the next slide, I'll speak to this in more detail, but you'll also have the opportunity once a week to do professional development with Sudha and myself. And what that looks like is once a week, about 3 hours in person, where we talk about topics like science communication, how to get somebody else excited about your science and share all the work that you've done throughout the program. It could look like talking about career development. What would it be like to draft up a resume? Think about a career in the future. What might graduate school look like? And you'll also get the opportunity to connect with several of our scientists through speed networking opportunities, as well as some of alumni, including 2 that you'll get to speak to towards the end of this program. And now I'd like to pass it back to Sudha. Oh, Sudha, you're muted.
Clearly. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. As Emma just shared about the program itself, the elements of the internship, it's a program that we do. We want to share a little bit about what we have done. So we started in 2014, and this is a snapshot of our stats over the years. For example, from 2022, we have 100% of our interns were from 100% populations, 42% from first generation college students, and more importantly, long term, we looked at all our alums. So our alum include the 68 interns who passed through the program. About 100% of them wanted to pursue STEM-related careers, and some of these data come from an independent evaluation system. So we want to know what happens and what is the impact of our program so that it's most beneficial for our interns. For 95% of them have completed a 4-year institution, or they're transferring to a 4-year institution, so a community college. 89% still are in contact with PIs. And some of the details that you can actually see here is a number of them have got their associate's degree, their bachelor's degree. A number of them are doing their master's degree currently, and some of them have started their PhD programs or the MD program. So for a program that's like less than 10 years old, it was really great for us to be able to track long-term that so many of our people came in with an interest in STEM, obviously, but explored biomedical research. A lot of them would have not considered a research career. They might have been interested in a clinical program. So PUMAS does accept anybody who's interested in STEM fields. So we expose you to the variety of options that you have. And though there is a strong research element, the people who are interested in being a dentist, in being a medical doctor, or in one of the in healthcare allied fields. And this gives them a real first taste of what a research experience is like. And they build those network and connections and their ability to communicate the science outward, which really helps them set them up for success. So that's where our alums have gone. With that, I wanted to share just our pictures of our cohorts over the years. This is really cool for us every time as we build this forward. See, from 2014, we obviously couldn't host in 2020, because that's when the pandemic hit, the only year that we didn't host a PUMAS program. But we came back with the bigger groups in 21 and 22, which was really cool for us. I want to share a little bit now about what have been the experiences of our PUMAS interns from their works. I mean, it's really exciting for Emma and I to see where our interns start and how they go through the program and go on to achieve big and great things. But from their experience, this is something that resonates a lot with me. One of our prior interns shared that this awakened a zeal in me to continue doing STEM, especially as a woman of color. Personally, I am a woman of color, and this really resonated that it can be impactful for individuals who might not have considered research as a career or have had opportunities to explore that interest of theirs. So this program helps that. So this was a recent article which was just interviews by past interns who share about their experiences and where they are now. So please feel free to look at it as well. But I want to move on to share two of our alums who joined us today. Hi, Damien. Damon Williams is here, who was here from 2014 and 2015 in our PUMAS program. And we'll get to and Somali, who's here, who was throughout 2019. I will pass it on to Damon to share a little bit about his experience in the PUMAS program, what he's doing now, how did this program impact him, so you can actually get some information directly from him. Over to you, Damon.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, and thank you. Nice to meet you for the first time, Emma. We've been contacting, but have never spoken. And nice to meet you too, Sudha. It's good to see you guys keeping the dream alive with PUMAS. So my name is Damon. I was part of the 2014-2015 cohort for PUMAS. I worked with Dr. Deepak Shrivastava in the heart disease floor for 2014, and I worked with Dr. Bruce Conklin in 2015, also on the heart disease floor. And so I didn't have much prepared to speak about today, so I guess I'll go off of Emma's template that she has. She says, what were your takeaways, experiences in the program, the kind of research you worked on, and current updates on where you're working now? So I could go on for days and days about my takeaways and experiences in PUMAS and just how monumental, how instrumental it was to not only my love for science, but also my success in science. My experience was overwhelmingly positive. which is happens with most people that I noticed in the program. Some people have negative experiences, but that's a different conversation. But my takeaways experiences in the program. I was in community college and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something with science and medicine. So I originally wanted to be a medical doctor that developed drugs. So I saw the opportunity for the PUMAS program. So I sent in the application. I had an interview with the program manager, whose name is Shannon, who's no longer there. We chatted, I got the internship. And the first moment I walked in, I saw the instruments. I was just like a kid in a toy store. It was insane. And I realized that like, this is exactly what I need to be doing for the rest of my life. So I'd say the biggest thing was the program allowed me to realize that this is indeed what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It was kind of an epiphany moment. And I think the second best thing were the people and the orientation sessions or the professional development sessions that happen every Wednesday. Not only was lunch free and not only do they pay you a lot of money to work there, but the people that you speak with, things that you learn, and I guess the comprehensive knowledge that you get of the biomedical research translational medicine field was, it was kind of overwhelming, but in a good way. They gave me so much information that I didn't know. I'd like take in snippets of things they'd say and just go Google, for example, I don't know, a technology called CAR T therapy. I didn't know what that was at the time. I Googled it and I realized that the people at this institution, Gladstone, like they're pretty much inventing the technology. It's like a cutting edge, like frontier type of research. And that kind of blew my mind. And to this day, I actually just put in my 2 weeks notice. I was a research assistant down at Stanford in a cardiovascular research lab for 5 years. And so I'm actually in the process of interviewing at a lab up there in San Francisco called the LGR. It's about 2 blocks away from you guys down by the Chase Center. It's they do a lot of functional genomics, CRISPR screening research, a lot of molecular level biomedical research stuff. But yeah, not to get off track too much. My takeaways were I got a lot of knowledge. The program manager was very friendly. I guess Gladstone has a track of hiring very friendly program managers such as Emma and Shannon. But I'm saying this, it's important because things can get overwhelming at times, but the support network you have, the ability to speak to people, not only your peers that are part of PUMAS, yourself, the friends that you're going to make, the mentors you're going to make, it was just a very positive, friendly, like a supportive environment. You really felt like you were part of the science with the PI, not just some like, I guess, lackey or like busboy that just goes along and does things. You're really part of the project, the people that are really committed to getting you the most knowledge and the best experience that you can have there. And so I strongly recommend everyone here, if you can, apply. It's gotten really competitive, but I mean, I still recommend you put your best foot forward, and it'll be life-changing and it'll let you know if you want to do this research thing for the rest of your life or not. At least I hope it does. I think it will. Most of my friends, that was the case for them. But so the kind of research I worked on, so the first summer I worked in the stem cell core. So although I was in the Deepak Srivastava lab, I worked directly under Dr. Catherine Ivy, who is the leader of the stem cell core, pretty much the people that are responsible for, I guess, handling all the stem cells and sending them to the rest of the building. There's a lot of stem cell work, which is also another thing I didn't know. I heard things about how stem cell research was the future. Once I started working with them, I actually gained the knowledge to know why they're the future. So stay tuned for stem cell therapies. But so I worked with Dr. Catherine Ivy on a project that involved neurodegeneration. We're trying to, I guess, study the role of a certain microRNA in the development of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is it's a type of, it's very similar to like dementia, Alzheimer's type thing. The second summer I was working on a protein aggregation project under Bruce Conklin and my graduate student, Juan Perez. He was very interested in finding mechanisms about how proteins get aggregated in the heart and how that leads to heart disease itself. So you learn a lot of baseline molecular techniques such as, Western blot, PCR cloning, all the household names that you will come to know and love and maybe hate because some of them are really tedious, but you get that experience, you get that knowledge, and it's thoroughly done for you while you're there, which is, I didn't realize how valuable it was till I got to Stanford. And then I tell people what I did and they're like, wow, you did that as like a transfer student. I'm like, I guess so. I mean, I didn't know how cool it was at the time, but in hindsight, it's very valuable. So where I'm working now, I brushed up on it a little bit. I was working at Stanford. So I had the internships 2014, 2015 at a community college in East Bay. And then I transferred to University of California, Riverside in 2015. Then I graduated in 2017. Right after I graduated, I applied directly to the lab in Stanford, and I had worked there from January 2018 until literally yesterday, 2023. So I did a whole lot of drug discovery, cardiovascular, congenital heart disease research, just very basic. Well, I guess it's not basic. So we're trying to understand mechanisms in the heart, how it leads to things like heart failure, And also we do a lot of functional readouts like, cardiomyocyte pacing, when you see like the QRT curves, like on the heart monitors. Basically, I did a whole lot of things involving trying to study how to make the heart work better and how to fix disease. So that's what I'm working on now, but I'm in the process of applying to new jobs. And so I think I just got an email back about whether I got the job or not, and I'm too anxious to click on it right now. So I'll do that later. But that was my experience with PUMAS. It's genuinely been life-changing, and you'll be set for life, in my opinion, if you do get this, if you have a great time, if you put the work in. And it's going to be easy to put the work in, because if you're about the science stuff, then it's just magical. It's like it's going to be you're in a toy store the whole time. So yes, I think I covered everything, but yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damon. That was really nice to hear from you, because I know you going from the program through and then see where you are.
Yes.
Really appreciate you joining us today and sharing.
One more thing. Can you send me that picture of me and my mom and my dad? I actually don't have that picture. Can you email it to me?
Well, happy to.
Yes,
Hi,
thank you so
Somali.
much. Yeah.
Would you like to share a little bit about your experience?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Somali. I was in PUMAS in 2019 before COVID. So my experience hopefully is kind of similar. When I'm going to follow a similar background that Damon did, I was encouraged to apply to PUMAS because of my professor. I was really interested in research, but then before then I thought like, oh, you needed a degree to do research. So I was just like holding back on it until I might join the program. And it was very exciting. It was like, I had been exposed to research just through papers and through coursework, but doing it on your own, it was exciting, but it was also really challenging because you're given a project. It depends on who you end up working under. I worked in the Nevin Krogan lab, and I was given a project like there is like that independence, but then it can also be overwhelming having papers to read. But our cohort was really, really supportful, because like everyone else this is their first research experience. So working with a cohort and having mentors like talk to you about these roadblocks, and then just having that encouragement, because not everyone ends up with a successful project at the end of the 8 weeks. Like they try so hard to give us projects where you can present data, but just like research, you'll have a moment where like nothing will seem to work, or you'll be so excited about something and it will turn off to not be worth it. But it's all about the experience, like the skills that you learn. During that time, that was my first exposure with DNA repair and cancer screening, and just like approaches at looking at genetic interactors. And that was really useful for me, because like these skills that I got through PUMAS, I'm still using them right now. I currently in my gap year, and I'm working here, came back to Gladstone, and I'm working here in the Bruce Conklin lab, and I'm doing CRISPR-Cas9. And even before, I was at Santa Rosa Junior College. I'm hoping there's someone from Sonoma County here, but I was in Santa Rosa Junior College, and transferring after PUMAS, I was able to get a job right away, even during the pandemic at UCLA Department of Anesthesiology, just because of like the skills set that I'd gotten here, and the fact that it was so elaborative, and you get to meet these big names. Like most times you won't even realize that this is a big name in the field, but Gladstone has so many big names. Like you'll see Downer having lunch downstairs, like the PI that I was working under, Nevin Krogan, like he has brought in so many grants. Well, here working with Bruce, he has done so much in stem cell and muscular disease. So it's like all these PIs and mentors that you get to talk to, read about them. Like most of them are like big names in their field, and just their name alone will like carry you so far away. People asking you about, oh, you worked with this professor. Just even a letter of rec from those professors will open so many doors that you didn't know you could get into. Like even after graduating, like people had confidence in my skill set just because like the name and where I got it from. So that was really exciting. After graduating, I graduated from UCLA. I did something similar to what I'm interested in. I graduated with a degree in microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics, and I decided to take time off just for personal reason. And I came back to Gladstone because of the same building environment. There is seminars and there is so many institutes because it's technically 4 different institutes, but everyone works and collaborates together. And that was exciting. So now I'm here and I'm really excited to talk to all of you guys. If you have any questions, like send them my way even after this.
Thank you so much, Samaya. It was really nice to hear your trajectory from being a PUMAS intern, going through your UCLA training, and then being back in Gladstone. We are just glad that you're here with us as you're further building your skills. We've actually had a lot of PUMAS interns who will come back for full-time positions at Gladstone. It's the environment and the connections that you make, which goes a really long way. And thank you, both of you, for your time and for sharing your thoughts. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, that concludes our time that we wanted to present about PUMAS. We are happy to take any questions that you might have, or if you think of things that you want to reach out and ask us about. That's our generic email. It'll come to both Emma and me. One of us will get back to you right away. And you can also look at the PUMAS program details on our website. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
I am stopping share in case people have questions. We are happy to stay on and talk as well.
And feel free to either type in your questions in the chat, or if you want to ask the questions. Any questions anyone has? Oh, we have one question. What if your school goes to the end of June? Maybe for students that might be on the quarter system, that might be an issue.
So we've had occasionally overlaps with school schedules. We try our best to place, if you see our dates like 12th and 11th, that's because we try to maximize institutions which are closed so that people don't miss a day of the term, and we can maximize their time in the summer internship. If there is an overlap of a week or 2, we have worked around that schedule by setting up individual opportunities for them to engage with the material that they might have missed, if it's in the boot camp, in the front end, and identify a mentor or a lab who would be willing to do a late start and then go a little longer in the program if needed. So we've been able to do that. Occasionally that happens that someone might miss the time. Like, for example, if the school starts early, their semester starts early, especially if they are transferring already to a 4-year college and they have to move out of state or out of the California Bay Area. So then in those cases, they might miss a poster session or the final ends. We would do that virtually for them so that they still feel that they are part of the cohort and they are in touch. However, we are, but most of our activities are in those. But thank you for that question.
So would students that, let's say some students have already applied for transfer to the 4-year and, you know, they're awaiting their decisions, would they be eligible to participate?
Technically, yes, we would like community college students as the primary component. And I think I'll let Emma add on as well as soon as I'm done. But our majority of our applicants are usually in the 2nd year of community college. So they are looking to transfer 1 more year of community college and then they want to transfer. But we have had occasions where they're already in the year and they're looking to transfer that year. So that is absolutely acceptable for us. Emma, did you want to add anything more on that?
Yeah, I thank you, Sudha, for explaining that. I think you've shared all that I thought of. But I did want to say, if you don't quite know when your classes start or end, definitely still apply. On the application, you'll have to insert dates, but if you can sort of guesstimate which dates those might be, and then as soon as you know, send us an email, that's absolutely okay as well. But I would still encourage you to apply. But at this point, maybe you won't have all those details for the summertime, which we understand.
Wonderful. We have another question. How much weight do you place on the letters of recommendation?
It's actually a really good question. Thank you, Tiffany, for reading that out. So the way our application process works is we actually have 4 elements that we look at. One is obviously about them, like what is their interest in STEM? Why are they applying to this program? How would this impact their career? So that gets an equal, so each of them have 25% weightage almost. So the second thing is obviously letters of recommendation. We want to know what inspires them, what are the skill sets or personality traits, like, your mentor might talk about, or your recommender might talk about how you're resilient, how you have a go-getter attitude, how you are a person who's very collaborative, you're very curious. So those are things that we really value, because that's what really matters in research too. So we want to set you up for success. So in that way, it does have an equal weightage. We also look at your college scores. We did point out the GPA of 2.5 minimum, and also your engagement with programs in, or lab courses in those subjects. We highly encourage people, if you are active in any of your clubs, like your MISA club or things like that, which would be very pertinent, include them in your essay, because we learn all this through your essays, essentially, the statement that you write. So that is super helpful to us. The last element is how do you contribute to the diversity of the California workforce and in the long term to biomedical research. So we take all of those four as 4 equal criteria, and we weigh them. And that's how we shortlist our candidates for interviews. I hope that helps with knowing about the letters of recommendation.
Absolutely. And I really like how you pointed out some of the non-technical skills that students bring to the table. I think that, as students ask for letters of recommendation, one of the things I like to tell students to do is write some talking points, right? Maybe maybe their professors don't, know that they're attending more than one community college, or that they're working, or they're involved in things. But, really letting folks know, I think really will strengthen that. And also, just kind of celebrating what they bring to the table and their enthusiasm. On that note, you require a resume, correct?
Emma, do you want to take that?
Yes, that's correct.
So for the resume,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, so one of the things that, as students are applying for, jobs and internships, a piece of advice that they get is, that the resume should be, short and sweet, 1 page. What are you looking for in a resume?
Thank you. That is an excellent question. I think that advice will work really well for both the PUMAS program and beyond. A lot of jobs look for both the resume piece or a CV, as well as a letter of intent. And really, if you're able to use those essay questions, it's almost like your letter of intent, and be very detailed about your interests, what excites you about science, what your personality traits and skills that you think could contribute to the program, and really using your resume to showcase maybe some of your technical skills. If you've been a tutor, or if you've managed projects before in school, all these other skills, like you mentioned, Tiffany, that maybe people wouldn't necessarily think of, they contribute to who you are and your experience and how you got here. So really using that resume to talk about any experience that you think would be resonant to PUMAS. And like Sudha mentioned as well, all of the clubs or relevant classes that you've taken can also be really helpful to include.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful piece of advice. I think for students that are applying to transfer, think of this as almost like applying to transfer, because some of the things that you will include are things that you will include on your transfer applications, right? So you'll put down your extracurricular, if you have any honors and awards, and essays. Everyone who's transferring for the most part will have to write essays. And so I think that as you write these essays, feel free to ask others for feedback. Is it clear? Is it concise? Does it really generate enthusiasm? Can you tell why you're applying to the program? And on that note, what would you say would be essays that really stand out? Because I'm sure you get a lot of essays. So what would you say would be some of the things that really speak to what you're looking for in a candidate?
I can take a first stab at that. So as part of the program, we want to know how the PUMAS program will enrich them towards the next step. So we want to know who you are as a candidate, like what inspires you to be in STEM, what are you thinking long-term, like where do you think you want to go? What are the skill sets that you have been exposed to? Even it doesn't have to be actual research experience, as I mentioned earlier. It could be saying that I really enjoyed my chemistry lab course and I learned about X, Y, and Z, because it helped me think this is how this can change that when it's an elemental change. Or it could be that I have heard about differences, like living through the pandemic, I see how strong an infectious disease education is. I'm really excited about it. I want to know and make an impact in real world life. And this is like the best time to actually learn how much healthcare can really impact life. So bringing that enthusiasm and your interest in where you're going. And the second part talking about obviously your skill sets. And the last part talking about who you are and what do you bring. Like it could be resilience. It could be talking about teamwork, how you are a collaborator, how you're enthusiastic. So we kind of want all those pieces. And this is also a good segue because part of the application process is we also want to inspire and help you navigate to the next step in wherever your career takes you. So as part of this application process and throughout the program, the professional development is basically supposed to help you with that. We talk about how do you do an effective resume? How do you write an effective cover letter? How do you write a CV? How do you interview? Learning about different avenues that you can take your education with your undergraduate education in STEM series. So we kind of build this as a progressive growth for the individual because the part of the vision behind PUMAS is not only that 9 weeks, but it's for the rest of your life. So which is why, we have stayed on with Damon, who's literally our first ever intern in the first cohort, and he still is in touch with us. So which is what we are hoping for, that we will build that, getting to know each of you.
That's wonderful. And it's really impressive. I mean, the fact that you have 69% of mentors that are still in contact with their mentees, that says a lot. That says a lot about the program. It says a lot that, alumni are coming back and kind of giving back. And really, it seems like almost like a community beyond the summer experience. So that's pretty exciting.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Yeah, we absolutely, I believe, as a model, Gladstone itself is big on community. And this is an excellent program for us to have fostered. And that's why it's fairly small. So we want to build that sustainably, and that our interns will pass through, have our entire cohort. We have an active LinkedIn group for all our PUMAS interns so that they can always stay in touch with each other, learn from each other, learn about opportunities. And it's a long-term investment.
That's wonderful. I'm glad that you mentioned LinkedIn, because I think sometimes, students might think LinkedIn is only applicable if you're applying for jobs. But if you're applying for research positions, certainly grad school, LinkedIn is an amazing tool. And I'm really glad that you not only have a group, but that you encourage students to utilize it as a tool. I use LinkedIn all the time. And, we will certainly post this video on LinkedIn so folks can watch it afterwards and learn more about the program and, connect and apply.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big LinkedIn user as well. So we actually, as part of our professional development, we show the best uses of LinkedIn to all our interns and help them start one if they don't have, and then include them into our alumni group. So it's a way, it's a simple, safe space for them to build into a social media platform if they're not comfortable with, and then learn its reaches. As Tiffany, I'm sure you use extensively for building your network. So.
Fantastic. Does anyone have any additional questions before we wrap it up?
I have a couple questions. So I was wondering, I guess first for Damon, I was wondering you guys have been talking about like the day-to-day and a bit of the abstract, right? Like what are the big picture things? And I think especially it's different because there are different projects that you can work on. But I'm wondering what like a full day at the internship looks like. Like what do you do when you get there in the morning? Like is it like really intense, like right away? Are you kind of like doing different stuff during the day? I think I'm just wondering how it is and maybe how it compares to like the school workload and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, good question. So I will say that when I transferred to university, that's 11 million times more stressful than any moment at the internship at PUMAS, just because are you in a community college or a four-year university right now?
I go to CCSF right now and I
Oh,
just
see, okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So yeah, university, it's like 10, 100 million times just more stressful for a lot of reasons that are kind of baloney in my opinion, but that's a different conversation. But to answer your original question, so from start, because I lived so far, I had to commute a long way. I lived in Brentwood, which is near Pittsburgh, and
Oh
it was far.
yeah.
So I got on at the farthest BART station, Pittsburgh Bay Point. I'd wake up at about, I don't know, maybe 5:30, get on the
Yeah.
BART at about 6, hopefully if there's no traffic, take the train, and then get off at the PAL station, take the free shuttle to Mission Bay, which usually took about 2.5 hours. So when it first starts, it's not stressful at all. Again, you'll have the honeymoon phase of googly eyes. It'll be so stuck and everything. So the first couple of days, it's really just orientation. It's getting oriented, meeting the person that you work under, meeting your team members, meeting the PUMAS cohort. So I'd say the onboarding process, I was super stressed out, super anxious. The director, which would be Emma, I'm assuming this time, was very accommodating, very helpful, very easy to talk to, so that also took away a whole lot of the stress. That was monumental in the whole thing. I keep telling Shannon she was my favorite person. I actually just got off the phone with her like not too long ago because she's helping me. But anyway, to get back on track, a normal day would be coming in. So from week 1 to 2, it's orientation. But if you remember the slides that Suda showed, starting week 3 is when you actually get into the nitty-gritty of things from week 3 to 8. So assuming we're talking about week 1 to 2, daily basis is come in, talk to your mentors, get you oriented with the project. Them will tell you what you need to do. It's a lot of you taking notes, a lot of listening, a lot of observing, not really hands-on stuff so much, but that comes later. So week 3, the daily thing would be, of course, the long commutes. And then once you get there, by that time, your mentors and your team should have given you a task, things that you should be doing on a daily basis to get your project done by the end of the 9-week session. So the first summer was not very stressful at all because I didn't have a lot of technical stuff to do. And also I had a lot of help from other members of the stem cell core. And the second summer was a little bit more stressful just because my grad student that I was working under had a bit more of a hands-off approach. So I had to I was almost kind of pushed into the fire. I had to learn on my own, which I learned was very valuable because you're going to have to do a lot of that in the future, like a lot, but it won't be as grueling for some people, or under some individuals. But that became a little bit tough for me the second summer. But I'd say the only real stressful part is towards the end when you have deadlines to start drafting up your poster, the outline and such. It very often happens so in science that things fail and data is inconclusive. So maybe between like week 6 and 8 on the daily basis, I'd be burdened with thinking about how I could salvage my inconclusive or not so good data, which I also learned is a very strong talent you need if you want to work in science, like how to make sense of nonsense, essentially, if that makes sense. But so week 6 to 8 were kind of stressful because you're constantly thinking about it, like on the train, like, man, my Western blot didn't go as planned. I didn't find the gene I wanted. I didn't find the protein I wanted. So you're constantly brainstorming ideas about how you can formulate your story, your project for this poster. And also public speaking is probably one of the most terrifying things in the world. So you're also thinking about how you have to present this stuff that you don't know a lot about to these people. So I say from weeks 1 to 5, very laid back, almost like having a normal job. Like you come in, they tell you what you need to do, you get some practice, and then you just kind of do it. So the experiments they will have you doing, some of them can be very technical. Like if you're doing like a Western blot with a bunch of samples, like just pipetting into like little squares inside. Yeah. So it can be difficult at first, but yeah. Okay. So, so that can be difficult. That could be stressful, but once you get more time going or once you do it more, then it becomes a lot less stressful. So yeah, daily life is just come in, first couple weeks get oriented, the next weeks work on your project, do what the mentors have you do. Some mentors are more hands-on, hands-off, but I will say both summers, they were very, very clear on what I need to do. They gave me a lot of instruction. So there was never a point where I was foggy on what I needed to do, but there were some points where I wasn't experienced, so I kind of fell behind, but yeah, it's more so a learning experience, which is very valuable too. So yeah, that's the daily life. And then you do your poster week 9, and they also help you draft your poster. They'll print it out for you. Gladstone has its own dedicated printing place, which I realize a lot of places don't have moving forward in science. So yeah, it'll get kind of stressful towards the end, in my opinion, but there's so many people willing to jump to help you that it'll just, it won't feel like anything much after that. So yeah, I hope that did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well.
And I have one more, if that's okay.
Yeah.
For Sudha and Emma.
Oh.
I was wondering, sorry. I was wondering like what your typical applicant that like starts the, or I guess what your like accepted intern looks like. Cause I think like I just did all my UC apps and I've been like racking my brain about like, okay, what's special about me? You know, like what is marketable? And I think it's weird trying to gear after like my like UC stress towards something different about like, maybe like if a lot of your applicants have strong GPA to like kind of push that less, or like I have good relationships because city college classes are small. I have good relationships with a lot of my professors, or I work at the tutoring center. And I've had like multiple like, okay, I'll give you a letter of rec, and I have kind of like a difficult time thinking like, okay, like what should I be emphasizing? Should I be like looking at the professor who I'm tutoring for, or my manager at the tutoring center, or my advisor for the engineering club, or my OChem professor? Because OChem is really the only lab that's applicable to anything that you guys are doing that I've had. Unless you're doing some surprise electromagnetism that I haven't clocked. So I was just wondering about that, and like, what does your typical applicant look like, and maybe what are some general guiding advice that I could ask you guys for?
Okay, so let's start with the letter of recommendation. The best things, and this is not just necessary for the PUMAS program. I'm a career coach on a regular camp, and I advise this across. The best letters of recommendation come from people who actually know you well. So if you had a choice between a person who knows you beyond just one course in one class that they probably see for 1 hour or 2 hours in a week, to a person whom you worked closely, you know, worked on material, worked on a project, which is a lot closer relationship, they would have attributes that even if you don't tell them too much, they would be able to emphasize. Oh, Abigail is, you know, an enthusiastic person. She talks through things. She's willing to do these. She takes initiative. These are things that which in a big group setting, they might not just know. So the letter is not as useful as a person who knows you better. So I would always recommend on that. I also understand going with a course which has techniques which might be applicable. So that's why we at least have 2 letters. So I would say at least one letter should be someone who knows you very well. We talk about your soft skills, your enthusiasm for science and STEM, where you want to achieve, and the fact that they can talk about with solid examples where they've interacted with you, how they've seen you exhibit that is helpful. The other one could be more on the techniques and strengths, more of your technical skills, if that's an option for you, especially if you're struggling with that. Typical applicants for us, we get about 60 or so applications. We normally have about 8 spots. We have actually started partnering with other institutions, so we might be able to take about 11 to 12 interns this year. So that is a competitive application material, so you can see. So which is why the best applicants for us, in the sense like the applicants who rise higher to get to the interview stage, are people who have thought through and addressed the key elements on the application process. So our application form will literally tell you, talk in your essay X, Y, and Z. Why do you want to apply? How do you contribute to the program? What is your STEM interest? So people who have read through that and paid attention and answered those are more helpful, and they get scored higher because our applications are scored by scientists from Gladstone. So they get applications, each of them have a bunch of them, and they would use the same lens across the applications we make. And each application is scored by 2 or 3 people. So which is why, as long as you can follow instructions well and get those letters of recommendation in time, I think that would really help. In the interview, that's once you're selected, like the top 20 applications that we pick, we do in the past, we've done Zoom interviews. Now we might potentially do in-person interviews. Some of the things that I would say would help you is to think through what you put in your application and reiterate and be able to speak about your interest in STEM. how you contribute to the diversity of the workforce. Why do you think this program will help you with getting your goals achieved? Those are three things, a couple of things that you should think through before, and be your authentic self. And I think that's the most important thing. You don't have to change yourself, and because that comes across. We want to see your genuine enthusiasm, genuine interest. And that's what all interviewers will tell you, no matter which level you do. And I'm sure Tiffany and Emma would agree with me. It doesn't matter whether it's your first internship or you're applying for an interview for a VP of a position. It's still the enthusiasm and the authenticity that comes across. Share your leadership skills. That's another thing that I've seen that gets usually noticed. And if you have done something in the STEM space, learn to talk about it. So that will show that you are a good communicator, and that you will, because it's a very different environment from in a course when you step into a lab. So people who are willing to invest of themselves, they will get more out of it, and you will get the most advantage of being in an environment. So show that enthusiasm. I think that will really help. I hope that helps with some of your questions, Abigail.
Yes, thank you. That's really helpful. I'm a chronic note taker, so I'm really piling it on. This is great for me. Can put it all in my Google Doc. I've got all the tables and everything. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I've been asking all my professors about it. And I think that they don't have tons of experience with REUs. And so they're like, well, I don't know, hope you get in. So this is great. I really appreciate all that. And the kind of the big picture and the little picture stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
And Abigail, if I may add, based on what you just shared with us, your application should include, and your letters of recommendation should include, you're very organized, meticulous, you think through process. So that is your soft skills, which you've recognized it, but you might not realize that that's actually a positive attribute to include. So because scientists have to be very organized and very meticulous in their data keeping. So that is a good skill set to have. So
yes, thank you so much.
We hope you see your application.
Thanks, definitely. I've got a lot of exams, but I'm gonna crunch through. These are gonna come in. Thank you. Oh, I actually have a kind of technical question. This is so random, but I think I'm going on a trip in April to Arizona for a Muay Thai competition, and I don't know how much leeway do you guys have for interviews if I do get selected for an interview? Is it a large window that's flexible, or am I at risk of missing it because I'm on I'm kind of engaged?
So if you let us know well in advance, when we reach out, we will try our best to accommodate.
Okay,
unless you're gone for 2 months, that might be a little challenging, but
yeah.
a week or two, we can definitely work around your schedule.
Okay, thank you so much.
I would include that. I mean, the fact that you're, that you're participating in the Muay Thai competition, that tells me that you are disciplined. It tells me that you're engaged. It tells me a lot, right? So, so good for you. That's fantastic. And just from this call, I can tell you're a leader. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I work with a lot of students, and I can definitely tell.
I agree. That should be on your application too.
Oh, thanks.
People remember specifics. I always tell students, part of writing these essays is storytelling, right? And so if you say, I'm from a small town, I won't remember the small town, but if you say the name of the small town and where it's at, right, they'll remember that. So things like that. If there aren't any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much to the student presenters. Thank you so much for the participants for asking questions, and thank you so much to Sudha and Emma. This is an amazing opportunity. I'm really excited the fact that it sounds like you'll have even more slots this year, because I'm sure you'll have a lot of interest, and this is just an amazing program, and I'm really happy that we're able to highlight it and get the word out to some really interested students. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for reaching out and for hosting us. And please do send us an email if there are any questions that come between now and later. And I'm even happy to chat on the phone if somebody, has questions that it's easier to speak through. And we have a great team as well who could also assist you if there are any technical difficulties that you come across with the application itself.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and conclude, and we'll send out the slides and the recording to all our participants. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.